Hey everyone, welcome. We're a little bit behind, so I'm going to try to push through. I'm here to talk about challenges for Ethereum staking protocols in the post-merge world. So, who am I, first of all? I'm Isidoros Passadis. Feel free to call me Izzy. I come from a traditional corporate background, auditing and accounting, and with a focus on risk management for financial risk and IT risk. And recently I've started working with the Lido DAO to help coordinate and wrangle Lido node operators through the application and onboarding process, as well as developing the processes through which we run node operations and evaluate them against the current set of goals that we have as Lido as an organization, and helping develop strategies to decentralize the protocol further. Really quickly about Lido. So Lido is a DAO that's building a family of staking protocols headquartered on Ethereum. So the idea is that we want to become a multi-chain staking protocol. Currently, we have over $7.8 billion US staked across the 3 chains that are currently live on mainnets. That's Ethereum, Terra, and Solana, with over 1.4 million Ethereum staked in our contracts on the ETH side. We started with 5 node operators on the Ethereum side, and then we moved to 9 around May of last year. And as of end of August, we have 14 node operators, with more on the way in a coming onboarding round within the next few months. So what am I going to talk about in this presentation? First of all, I'm not going to focus specifically on Lido. I want to talk about what risks and rewards staking protocols are facing in general, with the merge that's upcoming in Ethereum, slated to happen sometime between February and June of next year, and what staking protocols and users of these protocols can do to help mitigate any potential risks and ensure that the users are getting the rewards that they should be getting. This talk is going to be a little esoteric because I don't have the time to lay the first principles for everything. But what I will do is have a references sheet at the end of the talk. So if you want to do your own investigation, your own research, feel free to get back to me afterwards, and I'm happy to have a talk to discuss specifics or if you missed anything during the talk. So when I say staking protocols, I mean staking protocols in general and not just Lido. I'm going to attempt to outline key issues that affect all staking protocols and not specific issues that are maybe specific to only Lido. So really quickly, what's the merge? The situation we're in right now is that there are 2 semi-isolated layers in Ethereum. We have Ethereum 1.0, which is a combination of a consensus layer and an execution layer, all on proof of work. Eventually, what we want to do is separate out the proof of work part of this execution layer, deprecate it, and merge the execution layer with the proof of stake layer that we currently have on the beacon chain to end up with Ethereum 2.0, or basically the proof of staking Ethereum. And what that means is that in practice, the rights, responsibilities, and rewards that are afforded to miners currently within proof of work Ethereum will roll over to validators, and those pose both rewards and risks. So we're going to examine in 3 phases, what are the risks and rewards now, what will the risks and rewards be right after the merge, and what will the risks and rewards be after the merge and withdrawals are enabled, because from what we know from the Ethereum Foundation's roadmap, withdrawals will not be enabled right away together with the merge. So I'm going to look at the risk and rewards really quickly just to outline them. And then we'll look at each risk specifically and what strategies we've come up with at Lido and what we've observed as strategies that have come up with in general through the Ethereum Foundation research posts or on ETH Magicians, etc., to handle these issues. So what do rewards look like right now for users that are using staking pools as opposed to staking solo? The first is delegation. In delegation, there's 2 kinds of benefits. One is indirect, which is the act of delegating itself. What does that mean? It means that you outsource the operational responsibility and accountability of actually running the software and the hardware necessary to perform validation to other node operators. And the direct reward is that you, by investing your money into the staking protocol, which then hires these node operators to do the actual validation, accrue Ethereum staking rewards, and a small percentage of that goes to the DAO and the node operators for providing the service. Currently, these rewards are non-withdrawable. What does that mean? It means that as you're gaining rewards, they're sitting on the Ethereum beacon chain, and we cannot withdraw them. And we will not even be able to do it at the merge. We'll have to wait for withdrawals after the merge. And the secondary reward that you get by participating in certain kinds of staking pools, but not all, but Lido, for example, is that you may get a liquid staking derivative when you stake your ETH. So this liquid staking derivative basically allows you to sell your stake at any point in time on secondary decentralized exchanges, or earn yield on this staked ETH as it's staking. So basically using your liquid token, potentially putting it in Aave or Maker in the near future to take out loans, or putting it in Yerv or Curve and then Yearn and then Abracadabra to mint magic internet money, if that's what you want to do. So what are the current risks? The risks are that withdrawals are not permissionless, and some are still custodial, which means that node operators can, to a certain extent, hold staked ETH hostage. It doesn't mean they can run away with it, but they can prevent you from withdrawing it. And then, of course, you have the loss of possible funds due to operator errors, accidents, software bugs, smart contract risk, etc. What are the risks and rewards post-merge? So from a delegation perspective, this is where a lot of things are added. We still accrue Ethereum staking rewards in a non-withdrawable manner, but because now the validator has replaced the roles and responsibilities and therefore also gets the rewards of the miner, the validator has replaced the miner, they can receive priority fees. So those of us that use MetaMask post 1559, we know that priority fees, like the thing that you add on top of the actual maximum fee for the transaction that you want to process. So this is the so-called tip. And they can also receive MEV rewards. And these MEV rewards might either be directly given to validators on the execution layer or out of band, which means that they're paid outside of the actual Ethereum protocol. And so because priority fees and MEV rewards can actually be paid directly on the execution layer, that means that they're immediately usable both by the node operators and then therefore the stakers whose Ethereum they are validating. From a liquidity and DeFi rewards perspective, nothing really changes. You still have your staked ETH token, which you can sell at any point in time or use within DeFi. Because the withdrawals are not yet available, it probably means that the peg is also not exactly one-to-one, because it's not possible for arbitrageurs to easily move between the beacon chain and the execution layer in order to bring that peg to a one-to-one balance. So here we have one risk that's added to the two that we previously outlined, and that risk is that priority fees and MEV rewards are volatile. And I'll explain more why this matters and why it matters in terms of how many validators a certain staking pool or a certain user has on Ethereum, and that node operators may not fairly redistribute these rewards to stakers. Okay, and in a post-merge plus withdrawals world, these are the rewards and risks. So one is delegation rewards again. This time they're withdrawable. So that means that if at a certain point in time, it will make sense to, let's say we're running 32 validators, right? And each one of them has accrued 1 ETH in rewards. You will want to exit these validators, withdraw that Ether, because you've got a total of 32 Ether that has been amassed across your whole staking pool that you can use to create a new validator, which basically allows for compounding of staking rewards. You still receive priority fees and tips straight to the execution layer, and you can receive MEV rewards straight to the execution layer or out of band. From a liquidity and DeFi rewards perspective, what withdrawals will enable is a much stronger peg reaction and equalization at times when the peg falls out of peg. And a new risk that's inserted here is that with mass withdrawals may trigger a very high rate of validator churn or cycling. So basically, because a lot of people will want to exit their validators to retrieve the staked ETH and the ETH rewards that have been accrued to that staked ETH, this is going to cause a very long entry and exit queue to validators on the Ethereum network, and that queue may be weeks or even months in size. So that will, in practice, reduce the actual APR for that whole time period. So let's look at the possible solutions and explain a little bit more about what each risk entails. So withdrawals are not permissionless. What does this mean? It means that because the validator is actually controlled by the node operator, they have the access to the keys to actually send the exit message to the beacon chain. And in theory, if a staking protocol or a user asks for their ETH to be withdrawn, a validator could say no. However, in most staking protocols, which are permissioned and curated, like Lido is, where we pick our node operators, there are really, really few economic incentives for a node operator to do this. It doesn't make sense for them because what they want to do is provide long-term and lasting value to their protocols that they serve and the users that they serve. So the possibility of a malicious actor is really reduced by the fact that these operators would either be kicked off like our services, both on Ethereum and anywhere else that they happen to be validating with Lido. They would suffer really harsh brand and reputational damage and potentially also be blacklisted by other staking protocols. And sorry. They'll also potentially face on-chain penalties. So what's another way to fix this if in theory you don't have a curated protocol, but you have an open protocol like Rocket Pool, where anybody can be a node operator? What you can do is you can create a mechanism for triggerable withdrawals. So basically that the staking protocol itself, or the DAO that controls it, or a certain subselection of users on that staking protocol could receive a pre-created message every time a validator is created, and then issue that message when they want to exit a validator, and then the node operator will not be able to deny that message. How we can come up with creating such a mechanism is either through a new set of withdrawal credentials or by using a generalized message bus, which I'll describe in a little bit. The next possible solution, risk that we're going to look at is loss of funds due to operator errors, accidents, etc. So this is a bit of a catch-all risk, and it's like smart contract risk plus, blockchain risk. There's nothing you can do to ever mitigate all of the risk in this field. But what you can do, and what most staking protocols should strive to do as good stewards of the ecosystem, is increase diversity in distribution. So what do we mean by diversity? First of all, we need to promote validator diversity. There's been already a couple of talks this week about how Prism has a supermajority right now of validator clients, like over 70%. So what we want to do as Lido is first gather data around how many of our node operators are running which validator clients and at which percentages, and then align together with the DAO to figure out how we can incentivize these operators to change the makeup of their validators, either by running other validators or running multiple client types. The other thing that we want to do is distribute operations. So you don't want all of your node operators on the cloud. You don't want all of them in the same data center. You don't want all of them in the same country. Both for regulatory risks in the case that a country introduces legislation that's very crypto unfriendly, but also for operational risk, as we had like a data center in Germany that caught fire a couple months ago, and a lot of different validators and a lot of different protocols went down for like 2 days. Our next risk is around inclusion fees and MEV rewards being volatile and non-fairly redistributed. So because MEV and inclusion fees depend on what's going on the network at that point in time, so if you propose a block during a really heavily congested period of Ethereum, you're going to receive a lot more tips than somebody who proposes a block when there's not a lot of network activity. If you're a solo staker, eventually when we're at max capacity of validators, you may be proposing one block or less than one block a year. So the amount of actual rewards that you're going to be getting is about how lucky you are at which point in time you happen to propose a block. The same thing with MEV. If there's no MEV-able transactions in a certain block, or the total amount of MEV-able transactions is quite low, you might get really unlucky and not get anything. So what a staking pool allows node operators and investors to do is equalize those rewards over time. So every time one of our node operators in Lido may produce MEV or receive tips, all of those will be smoothed out across all ST-ETH holders, as opposed to only a specific person who has invested in that node operator at that specific point in time getting those rewards. So you have consistent rewards over time and not susceptible to the volatility of what might be happening on the network, at any point in time. So current solutions to this are basically like working with flashbots, because what is flashbots? It's a prototype for how to separate who creates MEV bundles and who executes the MEV bundles. There are downsides to this road, because flashbots right now runs its own private relay, right? They control, in theory, who can access the private relay and who can't access the private relay, and they also actually control whether the relay is up or not. And the other thing that they control is selecting which miners or eventually validators would be on this whitelist, because you don't want validators on a whitelist for a relay that may take an MEV bundle and act maliciously against it. So whether that means running and keeping the MEV for themselves or sandwiching a sandwich. So to solve that problem of possible MEV centralization, and actually there was a really interesting talk that Vitalik gave on this last week, I think in a Bucharest conference together with the guys from Nethermind. We have a proposal for proposal builder separation baked into the core Ethereum protocol. And the notes to Vitalik's presentation are included in the reference to this presentation. And lastly, in terms of risks, we have that withdrawals may trigger a very high churn rate for validators. So the best possible solution for this, and also the triggerable withdrawals that we mentioned earlier, is creating a generalized message bus. So the team at Lido, like our crack technical team and devs, have come up with a way for the execution layer, once we're in the post-merge world, to communicate with the beacon chain in order to do and execute any number of predefined set activities according to like an abstract message model. It can allow for triggerable withdrawals. It can allow for key rotation. So for example, if you staked ETH on Lido when we were still using a 9 of 11 multisig to control deposits and withdrawals, you can rotate those keys without having to fully exit the validators and then re-ingest them into the protocol. And it'll also allow, most importantly, for skimming of staking rewards. So this means that for any balance above 32 ETH on any running validator, you will be able to take out that balance over 32 ETH, move it to the execution layer, and then potentially compound it by reinvesting it into the Ethereum protocol without having to exit the validator fully and then re-enter all of those validators plus the new validators from the compounded interest. So what can you do as a staking operator or a staking pool or a user? So if you're solo staking and you're running a non-majority client, that's good. If you're running a majority client, that's bad. Like, pick another one. So right now, Teku has one of the lowest percentage use rates, but it's actually the most profitable client in terms of uptime and inclusion distance. And also start learning about SSV, because SSV basically allows you to share the technical and operational burden of running a validator between other parties that you may or may not trust. It doesn't matter because it's a multisig, so it can work however you want it to. If you're a staking protocol or a node operator, be open about your performance data and client metrics. So we started an initiative at Lido last week to collect all of these metrics. And within the end of November, we're going to be releasing all of these to the public for Lido in aggregate, and also about what our plan is to improve validator diversity if we need to. Thirdly, be an ecosystem steward. So that means putting forth and lobbying for improvement proposals that will benefit all stakers and network health. This is like the generalized message bus that Lido's team came up with, or the OX03 withdrawal credential proposal that Georgios Kostadopoulos came up with on the ETH research forums. And most importantly, as a user, be an active participant in the staking and the core protocol governance. So like we have LDO, and LDO is our governance token, but if you're not voting with it, and if you're not voting with your money as well, then you're not really driving the protocol to make the changes that it needs to. So research, contribute, and lobby for the features that you want as a user, and ultimately hold the staking pools that you use accountable. Thanks. So I think we also have some time for questions if anybody has any. Okay, thank you.